name is Erika, and I am the artist and creator behind GeekyStop. GeekyStop is a Pacific Northwest-based small business where I focus on everything from anime to cutesy stuff, video games, and then just like regular pop culture and OC stuff as well. It's been about a year and a half now since I started doing Artist Alley, so I figured I would start vlogging and show you a little bit of the process behind going to events. So today I'm actually going to show you some of what happened last weekend at the CID Lunar New Year market. Now, because this is also my first vlog, it is also a bit of an introduction to both my shop and myself. So for those of you who I've met in person, thank you so much for supporting me so far, and hello to anybody who might be new here. To give a little bit more context, CID is Seattle's Chinese International District. The event happened on February 22nd, which is a Saturday, and it went on from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We were allowed to set up starting at around 8 a.m., and I paid about $212 for a table. Though, mind you, that was me sharing a 10 by 20 space with a friend. So if you want to buy your own 10 by 10 space and not share it with anybody, your price might vary a little bit. Because we don't usually do markets, we actually had to prepare a lot for this event, which included going to Tacoma to buy a tent from a different artist, and then just figuring out how to get a table. Usually you can rent them from the people organizing the event, which we ended up doing this time. We ended up renting the tables since all we had was the new tent we got. But I know a lot of artists just rent boat, and you really do want to have a tent for this event because it tends to rain a lot. And it actually did this weekend too. We ended up getting soaked and my shoes ended up getting ruined. So don't be like me, wear waterproof shoes. Now, starting with the event review itself. Events at CID tend to be pretty straightforward, and communication is always pretty good with the organizers as well. They always give you plenty of time to set up, and they always give you warnings when it's time to shut down as well, so you can start packing your stuff if you need to. It was a little bit complicated this weekend, but that was due to the fact that it was raining when it was time to pack up, so that's not really anything anybody could have controlled. They do allow people to bring in their cars and just park them right where you were going to set up to make it easier to offload, which is very much appreciated because it's kind of hard to find parking around the area, and then you have to be dragging a cart for like 5 blocks, which ends up weighing 80 pounds, especially if you carry prints like we do. We arrived about an hour and a half before the event, which personally gave us plenty of time to set up. But if your setup is a little bit more complicated, you might want to get there earlier, since it might take you a while to find somewhere to leave your car, or find your spot, or you might have to go get the tables and tent rentals that you purchased for the event. Despite the fact that it was raining the whole day, traffic was actually surprisingly good and stayed pretty stable throughout most of the event. It was consistently packed, and we actually made table within the first hour or so, which is pretty good for a market, especially since we didn't have our main selling item, which is large poster prints. We actually tried a different setup this time, where we just had our apparel, our mini prints, and then some charms and stickers. This is because we've had problems in the past where we set up a print wall, and since it's the outside, then you get the wind and you get the water, and then the display prints get ruined. We're still trying to figure out a way of displaying all of our products in the best manner possible for events outside. That's also because we usually tend to do inside events, since conventions tend to be inside convention centers or hotels. If you're doing an event outside like this one, then I think the best tip I can give you is definitely get tent walls for your tent. We've done events in the past where we did not have tent walls and just our bags got soaked and we had products that got ruined by the rain. Whereas this time we felt a little bit more secure because there was less waste of the water getting into our space. Out of all the items that we brought, I think our best sellers were definitely apparel by far, and also mini prints. We were very pleasantly surprised by that because apparel tends to be a higher priced item, but we sold a very good amount of hats, which usually move a little bit slower when we go to conventions. And that was just a really good feeling because we kept seeing people walking around with the hats that they bought from us and just like sharing them with their friends, even buying them for their friends as well. We also sold a very high number of mini prints, which was also a bit of a surprise because most of our prints are actually fandom based. So we sold things related to Omori and related to things like Attack on Titan, whereas we expected the new mini print we made, which was more of a cutesy basic mini print to sell, and that actually did not do well at this event. But you know, fingers crossed for the next one. Stickers were also a big hit, but then I feel like that's just the usual. People love buying stickers, and I feel like we're always selling stickers, always buying stickers from other people. And then surprisingly, our earrings didn't do that well, which tend to be a good seller for us at markets. We only sold a handful of them. but that might also be because there were more jewelry vendors around, so it might just have been that it was a little bit saturated for that type of vendor at this event. For attendees, there are also a lot of things to do at this event. For one, there is so many food vendors out there. We were actually seated right in front of one of their booths, so we kept smelling it all day long, and we got pretty hungry because of that. Somebody actually gifted us some food, which was very, very sweet, and if you're watching this, thank you so much. That really made our day. There is also entertainment provided throughout the whole event, with the park right in the middle being filled with presentations like dancing and swords. And then there's also that cool parade where they have the lions and the dragons just walking down the avenue. And that happens every hour or so, so there's always something going on that you can take a look at if you're there to look around. Now, all of those are positive things, but we did hear a couple of complaints which I think are very valid, and one of them was that there was too many vendors. Now, this has been something that we've heard a lot this year and last year as well, where events will kind of accept more and more and more vendors, and then that creates a little bit of a saturation where it's harder for people to break even or make a profit. While this event went pretty well for us, I know that was not the case for everybody, and I do think that specifically for CID events, location is very important. We actually did one of their events previously, which was the CID night market, and while we still did pretty good, we did not do anywhere as close to what we did for this one. And I think that may have been due to the fact that we were actually in a side alley that time, where this time we were actually in the main road, so we got a lot more of the foot traffic. And I think that kind of sounds true as well for the artists that I heard were having a bit of an issue with the event this time. One other thing, and this is something nobody could control, of course, was it was pouring. It started raining near the start of the event, and we thought maybe it was going to calm down, but it didn't. It actually picked up a lot. So there were periods of time where not a lot of people were around, because even though people in Seattle are very used to the rain, they weren't used to like this amount of rain. This also led to some cases where some artists did lose some of their product because they ended up getting wet, and some things may have gotten knocked over as well. That is accidents that just happen throughout events though, and it's something that you just kind of have to learn to go with when you're doing something like this for a living. Now, would we do this event again, or would we recommend it? In my personal opinion, yes. And that is because this event is both affordable, especially if you're splitting it with a friend, and also it has a very high amount of foot traffic. That means that even if you sell some relatively niche stuff, you are likely to encounter somebody that likes it. Not only that, but the fact that you can rent a tent and rent a table if you need it means it's pretty accessible for somebody starting out. For example, last event we did not have a tent or a table, and we ended up renting both of those, and that made our lives a lot easier. Where there are some markets that we are not able to do because we do not have the things that you need to set up, and then they may not rent them out to you. Also, the rental prices are pretty reasonable. Tables were only about $25 to rent for the day, which is on average about half of what some markets may charge for a table. The prices to vend itself at this event are also pretty reasonable, I think, since, like I mentioned, we paid about $212, and that compared to vending at a convention, which this year has raised its prices to be about like anywhere from $400 to $600, is just a lot more doable in the long run. CID also has multiple events throughout the year, so I feel like it's a good place to just test out what a good fit for you might be. You might do well at some and then maybe not so great at others, but it'll help you practice spending and interacting with people, and that's also really important. So again, this being my first vlog, I actually forgot to take any footage of myself at the event, which I now realize was a bit of a mistake. So everything you're seeing is more of a highlight reel. I'm hoping for my next event, which is going to be Anime Milwaukee, I'll be able to do a little bit more footage at the event itself. That it's also going to be an anime convention, so it'll give you a little bit of a different idea of what we do at those. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, even if this was just a little bit of me rambling on about an event. And I hope that you come back and you like and subscribe to see more content. It will help me keep my cats fed, and you might even get some footage of them as well. So I hope to see you soon. Thank you.